Good morning, guys. So I just wanted to touch base with you, especially since everyone should be moving on to Section 2 of Antigone. I wanted to take a second to review Section 1 with you guys. So today is Monday, back from break. You should have completed Section 1 of Antigone before the break, and you should be moving on to Section 2 today, which is our first ode. And I do have ode materials and stuff posted previously for you. So you should be focusing again on Section 2 today, which is our first ode. After Sections 1 and 2, normally the sections will have a part that has just dialogue back and forth between a specific set of characters, and there will be an ode at the end, typically. The last one gets a little more mixed, but the first two sections are separated so you can take some time, to actually get to know the characters, the major characters, as well as kind of that structure of the ode and kind of get into the play. But again, after this, it will be kind of a little bit more mixed. So for Section 2, you are only introduced to two major characters, one of which is Antigone, which the play is, of course, named after. The second of which is her sister, Ismene. So Antigone and Ismene are having this conversation back and forth about what has just occurred previously in the world or that they live in. So Antigone goes to see her sister, and she pulls her outside of the castle to tell her, some important news has taken place, and she's asking her if she's heard of it. So in this important news, of course, is that the new king, their uncle Creon, has decided that one of their brothers who has been killed will be buried. The other one will not be buried and honored after his death. So, of course, since Ismene and Antigone are, both their sisters, Antigone is very much set on saying, hey, our brothers are equal in our eyes. They should both be buried equally. They should both be respected in death, and we need to do something about it. So they have this conversation back and forth between, is Antigone going to do this thing and be motivated to bury her brothers? Is she going to handle that business? And Ismene's kind of on the other side saying, but should we? Not only because we do see it as the right thing to do, but that's maybe not the right thing to do because Creon says not to do it. So they're motivated differently, very, very much so. So Antigone is motivated by that respect for her family and her brothers, whereas we see the motivation for Ismene being kind of whoever's in power is in charge and whatever they say is correct. And of course, this leads again to an argument. They do start to argue more and more as the text continues. So Antigone gets more and more aggressive, whereas Ismene kind of sits back and says, well, Antigone, think about it. And she talks to her about a couple of things that could go wrong, and a couple of reasons why she shouldn't actually bury their brother Polynices. So just kind of keep that in mind, that they are having an argument. Think about how you would argue with one of your siblings. I know me and my brother, for example, used to argue a lot, all the time, and we still are pretty bad about it. So keep that energy. When you think about fighting with your siblings, look at this section the same way that you're fighting with one of your siblings and you think whatever they're saying is completely idiotic and you want them to be on your side. And, of course, they think the same. There's a lot to dig in here in this first couple of sections here, so kind of keep that in mind, but I do want you to focus primarily on what they're motivated by and how would you describe each of the sisters. So for example, Antigone, we have already said that she's a little bit more aggressive and a little bit more of a go-getter, and she's motivated by respect. On the other hand, Ismene is a little bit more laid back. She doesn't really engage in the conversation and the fight with her sister as much, and she kind of wants her to think logically and think what's going to be best for her in the long run, physically, because remember, the penalty for doing this, it's not just that it's Creon said, don't do it, there's a consequence. The consequence is actually that you will be killed. You'll be stoned to death, which means they will literally throw rocks at you until you die. That's a really, really painful and like very drawn out, long punishment. So, of course, Ismene doesn't want to lose another sibling, and Antigone feels like it's just the right thing to do because it's out of respect. So they are feuding as we go into the next section we see them in, which I believe is maybe 4. I think we don't see Antigone and Ismene again until maybe section 4. So again, I would just think about, you know, how would you describe them? So I am going to start making these charts, and I am going to post a picture of this so you guys can see it a little bit more clearly. But I am going to do one for each of the sections. So this is section 1. I put the location outside of the castle. And think about why Antigone might want to bring her outside of the castle. What may be the purpose for that? Next, we have the major characters. Obviously, we're introduced to 2 major characters, Antigone and Ismene. They're the 2 primary characters in this section as well. Next, I have a quick summary, and it says Antigone tells Ismene about the law that says not to bury their brother, and the consequence that goes with it. She asks Ismene to help her bury Polynices, but she refuses, and Ismene refuses to help. And they argue throughout the section. So that's pretty much the basic plot points. And then we have characterization here, which is the primary thing I'm asking you to focus on besides conflict.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. It says turn up. We get all teachers and parents. Please support the big this time. Have a great day.
So the last section here, or last 2 sections, excuse me, one is focused on characterization, one is focused on conflict. So every text, every story, everything will have a character, and they will always have a conflict. So we need to understand those basic pieces moving forward. So our major characters, again, describe those here. I have that Antigone is very much focused on respect, not only for her brother, but also the gods, which you can find a couple of examples where she points this out. She also, in class, we described her as bold, defiant, disobedient, masculine, determined, brave, and loyal. On the other hand, we have Ismene over here. It says, be a traditional woman and follow men's orders, which you can see several examples of her not only stating something very similar to that, but also living up to that expectation. And then we have a list of kind of some characteristics for her as well. So typical, cowardice, fearful, protective, a follower, and selfish. Then finally, at the bottom, we have some ideas for conflict. So for section 1, this is definitely person versus person conflict. It is Antigone versus Ismene in this particular section. But if you think about the overall conflict of the text, the overall issue is the fact that Antigone disagrees with this particular law that has taken place. So Antigone is directly fighting against the law. She doesn't despise Creon. She doesn't agree with his ruling here. She doesn't agree with the law. Because she doesn't just not follow any law. She doesn't just hate Creon. It really is about this particular law that she's like not doing what is quote unquote expected of her. So it really is person versus society here, and that society part would be that law. So this is just a quick kind of recap, guys, on section 1. Again, you should have already read section 1 and already posted your information. After that, you should be moving on to your ode. Remember, I did post a video that broke down the sections of an ode. There is also information in your textbook if you have a copy of the textbook. I'm only posting the pieces that you're needing, so the text and any questions I've have asked you to work with. So keep in mind that these things are available to you. I'm always available for questions. Let me know. I'm here, guys. Be good.